Well, it's back to school tomorrow for many Aussie kids, and whether they're entering the education system for the first time or gearing up for important exams this year, it's often a very stressful time for children.
Indeed, it can well be. Well, joining us from our studio in Melbourne is Dr. Chelsea Hyde. She's an educational and developmental psychologist. Good morning to you. Thank you very much for joining us on Weekend Breakfast. Of course, there are probably some key times in a child's schooling life when they're more likely to feel the pressure, the anxiety a bit more than most. I'm imagining that those starting school for the first time will probably be among those, and maybe those in our senior years. Is that the case?
Absolutely, yes. Transitions through school are a normal part of life, and as you said, some of those key times are starting school for the very first time, also moving from your primary years into secondary education, and then also the final years of school. And so all of those key transition points offer different developmental milestones and opportunities, but also some challenges as well. However, we do find that, children are incredibly resourceful in general.
Just how hard can it be for students, especially those entering kindergarten or prep? I guess for some students, it's the first extended time they've spent away from their parents in some cases.
Absolutely, it is, yes. So one of the biggest challenges that can present for children starting school is that separation, because it's a significant separation at this point away from their parents, and so some nerves and anxieties can be common at that point in time.
So what advice would you have for parents who are, saying goodbye to perhaps a teary child at the school gate tomorrow? What do you tell them? How do you reassure them?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I think the first thing that I would be telling parents is be rest assured that the prep teacher that's going to be meeting your child at school tomorrow is very well prepared and equipped to deal with the challenges of starting school. I would also advise parents to talk to their child about any worries that they do have, because we know that by talking through some of those anxieties, it can alleviate those stresses and help children feel a little bit more calm and to know what to expect when they do get to the school gate.
Do schools employ certain strategies around these sorts of transitional key moments in schooling life? I'm thinking in terms of perhaps, say, orientation. Is that something that is sometimes available so that kids are at least familiar with the environment and some of the faces before they actually start schooling?
Absolutely. Schools do transitions very well, and transition programs are quite commonplace. Orientation can start as early as the year before, but certainly in this first week of school, most schools will run orientation programs to help get children comfortable and oriented with the new school environment. And some of those programs can be specific things also, like buddy programs or mentor programs as well.
I suppose while no one wants it to be traumatic for the kids or their parents, I suppose it's really a rite of passage, really, isn't it? And I suppose some difficulty, maybe a few tears and a bit of sadness might be sort of character building in a way.
Look, that's right. I think some tears and anxiety is to be expected, and over time that should settle down. However, if that's not the case, that would be the time to speak with your classroom teacher, and in some instances a consultation with an educational and developmental psychologist may be warranted.
Now, when it comes to older kids, obviously they're used to going to school, but there are a lot of pressures, I suppose, our young people are facing, not just when they're inside the schooling grounds, but I'm thinking in terms of the increased study that they do outside of school hours, extra activities, and social media. How are those factors coming into play?
All of those factors are very big and very important for older students to learn to deal with, and certainly moving into the final years of school, we do find that balance is key for senior students to make the best of their final years, trying to balance those study demands, relationships, socialising, leisure time, and sometimes work commitments as well, is absolutely a balance.
I'm remembering even back to my school days, back then they were saying it's not the end of the world, don't put too much focus on this year. Yes, it's important, it's not everything. They're still saying that to kids, but do you think that message is getting through? Because there seems to be so much anxiety associated with those final year exams.
Yes, look, there does. And I do believe that, I think students do hear that message. Whether they take it on board or not is another thing. I certainly know that in my work as a school psychologist, I speak to senior students about having plan A, B, C and D, because you never know what's going to happen. Having goals in place is really important, but if there's too much pressure that then cripples students from reaching those goals, then that can be detrimental.
And should parents be mindful of what they say and their behaviour as well? That would no doubt have an impact on the cues that children are being given as to what's expected and those sorts of things.
Absolutely, yes. I think the key for parents of senior school students is really just to be supportive, keep those lines of communication open, let your young person talk to you about what they're feeling, and try to not place too much pressure on, those final exam and marks.
Some excellent advice for students heading back to school and their parents. Dr. Chelsea Hyde in Melbourne, thanks very much for that.
Thanks for having me.